Thank you all for coming to the Black, Indigenous, and People of Color Fund information session for 2024. My name is Gloria Aponte, and I am an immigrant to this country from Colombia. I work with the Maine Community Foundation and with this grant program, and we'll spend the next hour together. This session is being recorded and it will be posted to our website, and the slides will go up there too. And all the information is on the BIPOC Fund website, so please don't feel like you have to take notes. We will use the Q&A function, and we'll do questions at the end, so feel free to submit some questions. And we're going to ask to hold questions till the end. Again, if you want to use the chat function to introduce yourselves, that's great. All right. So I want to begin our time together with an acknowledgement honoring all Indigenous people from all around the world. And here in this land we call Maine, especially the Wabanaki people who came here before us, before me, and nurtured this space and are real stewards of Mother Earth. They're the first people to this land. So we can take a breath on that. And I also wanted to share a quote by Maya Angelou, who's a poet and a justice activist. They said, "The need for change bulldozed a road down the center of my mind." And I chose that quote because the BIPOC Fund funds organizations that are really leading the change in the needed fixes for the inequities to this country and this state. So thank you all for the work that you do. All right. Wrong slide. There we go. So I'm going to be giving a lot of information today. Just one quick slide about the Maine Community Foundation in general. We're kind of a complicated organization. So I'm happy to talk to folks after this if people want to know more about Maine CF in general. The brief overview is we offer grants, which is why you're here for the BIPOC Fund, and scholarships. So we have a whole scholarship section. And the way we offer both the grants and the scholarships are through donors. So we have many, many, many donors. And on the slide are our values. And we have two main offices, one in Ellsworth and one in Portland, and a lot of people that work from home all over the state. We cover the whole state. So the BIPOC Fund overview is part of the grant making part of our organization. So we have about 20 different competitive grant programs, all with different deadlines and criteria and different focuses. So this one is for focusing on BIPOC. We have some that focus on art. We have some grant programs that focus on a geographic area like a county. So you can look at those on our website, and later in the presentation, I'll show some screenshots of the website showing where those grant programs are. So this grant program was started in 2007, a few years ago. In order to apply, you must meet the criteria, which we'll go through, and our eligibility. Some of the eligibility is that you have the right tax status. For us, we're a public charity, Maine CF is, to be able to give a grant to an organization. So you have to have either your own tax status of being a nonprofit, or you can work with a fiscal sponsor who has that tax status. And Katie will put that link in the chat of how to work with a fiscal sponsor. It's pretty easy. It's just one-page form that both organizations fill out. So the maximum award for this grant program is $10,000 a year. And one of the changes that we'll talk about more is we're going to have 2-year grants. The application due date is February 15th. And a tip here for you all is not to wait until the 15th to submit your grant, because if you're like me, something will happen to either to my computer or the internet or the file that isn't quite working right. So try to submit even the day before so that you have time in case something doesn't go as planned. So here are the specific BIPOC fund criteria. New this year, we added in, you must have a Maine address. We did this because the advisors want to really fund organizations that are doing work specifically in Maine. So you must have a Maine address. You must have offered programming for the community in the past year in 2023. So we want to see applications from organizations that are doing work now, not that are thinking about doing work, but people and organizations that did work in the last year. We also want to see applicants who have BIPOC people in leadership positions on their board and the staff of the organization. And the last criteria is that BIPOC people are involved in the design, delivery, and evaluation. And this is because we want community to be part of what's actually taking place. If the community hasn't had a say, isn't involved, then often they won't participate in whatever your organization is offering. And we have seen that over and over again. And we want to fund organizations that are meeting the needs of their communities. So in addition to criteria, most of our grant programs will have priorities. So those are all different for our grant programs. For the BIPOC fund, these are the priorities up on the screen. So racial equity is the goal. And you do this by increasing access to resources, opportunities, or life outcomes. So by life outcomes, we mean things like that are benefiting people's life. You know, so if your organization is working to increase the number of people that graduate from high school, or that have a certificate, or that have health insurance, or that have housing, all of those things would be improving life outcomes for your community. We also have a priority of leadership development. So organizations that work on improving leadership skills or actual leaders, training, things of that sort for BIPOC folks. Another priority is health. So thanks to the Maine Health Access Foundation, who gives the BIPOC fund a specific amount of money to help fund health-related proposals. A priority is also economic opportunity. So organizations that help increase access to employment opportunities, education, and professional development, or even business development, all of those things. So those are the 4 priorities of this fund, and the advisors will be looking at that when they're reviewing your proposals. So here are the updates for this year. We listened to nonprofit organizations in the state and what they wanted. So this year, we are only offering general support funds. So that means that it's flexible funding for your organization, and you get to choose what you want to use it for. So we hear that that's really what's most needed for organizations, and we are very happy to be able to offer that. In addition, it's going to be a 2-year grant this year. So you will write the application this year, and then you will get 2 years of funding. If you are awarded a grant, the first year in June, you will get a $10,000 grant. And in the second year, 2025, after talking to an advisor or myself about how your work is going, you will get a second grant for $10,000. So you'll get a $10,000 grant each year for a total of 2 years. So the applications We won't ask for applications again until 2026. And remember, all of this is on the website too, and as well as in our guidance documents. Let me give you a little idea of what this grant program looked like last year, because often that's helpful. So last year, we had 70 applications, and that was the most applications that this fund has ever had. It was a lot of applications. The advisors were able to award 35 grants, which is a great, great number. And in addition, 17 more grants were funded by donors. So people often ask us, how do we get in front of your donors? How do they hear about our work? And this is how you get in front of donors, is you submit an application. We put it on a portal on the internet called Giving Together. And then donors get to search that portal by geographic area, by grant program, or by keyword, and see the proposals that match those things. So that is really how you get in front of donors, through our Giving Together portal. Another question we get a lot is, how are these decisions made? And this is one thing I really like about the Maine Community Foundation, is that we use advisors to make the decisions. The advisors read the applications, and they will call the applicants that are eligible and hear more about the organization's work in their own words. And the phone call can really bring the program to life, which is pretty special. So again, when the advisors are reading your proposals for general support grants, which that's all that's being offered this year, they're going to really focus on your mission and your important programming. And if those things match the criteria and priority of this grant program. So this year, the application proposal is shorter. There's 6 questions. We'll go over those in a sec. They're all general support. And because it's all general support, you won't need to submit a project budget, which is what we heard from organizations took up a lot of time, is coming up with that project budget. So hopefully this year will be much easier to apply. Okay, here are the actual questions. And on the website, you'll be able to actually download what the application looks like in a Word form. You can't submit the Word form. We'll go over that in a sec, but you'll be able to see it without having to go into the online portal. So the first question, what is your organization's mission? Each of these questions also has a word limit. And we made the word limits kind of big. So please don't feel like you have to fill it up. Just use what you need. We just didn't want to have you have to play the word limit game, which is trying to cut words out to try to make it fit. So we made it big so you wouldn't have to do that. So the mission statement may be used with our donors. It should be written for those people that don't know your organization. So it gives an overview of what your organization is about in a short sentence or two. Second question is, we ask to describe the people you serve and you have reached. So again, this is for work that is happening or has taken place, not that is completely aspirational. So we want to know, the advisors want to know a little bit about who it is that you're working with. You know, are they from rural, urban? Are they young? Are they old? What part of the community are you working with? Are they really underserved? You know, something that helps describe to the advisors who are you working with? We also want to know how many people you reach. So again, we want to have a really good estimate of that number of people. If you've only run a program once, then you'll have sort of an idea of what you can guess for next year. For example, if you're running support groups, and you run one support group a month, and you have about 10 people attending the support group, then the number of people you'll reach will be 120 people. So you kind of can estimate based on your past work how many people you'll reach next year. And again, remember, one of the criteria is that your organization did work in the last year. So the third question is to list 1 to 3 of your most important programs. So this is where the advisors are going to hear from you what you do and how you do it. Sort of what are the day-to-day activities that you do to get your work done. The next question asks how your organization is going to improve these items that are listed there: access to resources, opportunities, and life outcomes. So the advisors want to know what you're doing to make a difference in the lives of the people you serve. Be specific about what resources will be improved, what opportunities will be increased, etc. And then remember, the other criteria was that you're involving the people you serve. So we're going to ask how you do that. How do you improve? How do you involve them in what you're doing? And then the last question on the application is to tell us who's doing the work. Who are the key project staff? So that's a quick overview. Again, that's on everything's on the website. So a quick note about what we cannot fund. So these are things that the advisors that our organization cannot fund. We can't fund things that have already happened. So before June 1st, we can't re-grant you can't re-grant the funds we give you to somebody else. Your organization has to use the fund. No political campaigns or lobbying or religious activities. Here's a quick overview of the timeline of what this is going to be. Due date for February 15th. Then our grant staff review first for eligibility, and then the advisors will review in March. Then all the grant decision meetings happen in April. We have several grant programs happening at the same time. I'll talk about one at the end, really quick, community building, that you'll probably be eligible for too. Then in early May, after the decision meetings happen, the notifications are sent. So those will go out in email. So whether you're awarded or not, you'll get an email from our grant system. So that email will come from grantproposals@maincf.org. So if you know how to, you can add that email address to your accepted addresses to avoid it going into your spam or junk folder. If you are awarded a grant, then you'll also get a letter in the mail with an award check. Okay, so now let's talk about what this looks like on the internet. So what are you actually going to do when you get to the website? So this is a screenshot of the website, maincf.org. And this is our homepage. So I'm going to walk you through this. The red arrow there on the screen is for grants. You're going to click on grants, and then there'll be a little drop down that says available grants and deadlines. So then this screen will pop up. So this is a list of all the grant programs and their deadlines. Each one of these will have the criteria and priorities for that grant program. So you can see where the red arrow is there is for the BIPOC fund. So you would click on that. and get to, this is the BIPOC Fund page. So on here at the top, you'll be able to download, like I said, a Word version of the application. And we have it in several languages this year as well, in Arabic, French, Portuguese, and Spanish, along with English. So on the online portal, it will only be in English, but you'll be able to read the application questions in those languages as well. On this website, as well as where you would find the recorded version of this webinar when it gets posted. And there's also a frequently asked questions sheet as a companion to the application questions as well. All right, so let's see how to apply. And you see that orange button at the top with the red arrow. You would click on that, and that says apply. And you can also access it through the front page of the foundation as well. You'll see there, it's always there at the top. When you click on that apply button, then you'll see this page. Online grant applications is what you want to press. So where that red arrow is, you click on apply here. And then the next page that you see will be this. So here you would log in if you've used it before. You type in your login information. If you forgot your password, no worries. You can reset it right there on that page. If you've never applied with us, then this is where you register. So you'll need to create an account, and you can do that with your name and email address, or actually a social media account. On this page, there's also more resources here where that red arrow is. There's something you can click on for step-by-step instructions on how to start a new grant application, for example. Those things are really helpful. And also to note, you can actually save your application and come back to it later. You can also add people who are writing the application with you and who can read and edit the application. So multiple people can do that. This year, we're also holding information sessions in person after this one. So you would do that on the website, on the BIPOC webpage. Katie, if you want to pop that in the chat, there are registration buttons there. You'll see, I don't know if you can see it, it's pretty small, but on that page, it says register here for the in-person workshops. And those on the screen are where they are. We're going to be holding 3 of them in January. One in Portland, one in Lewiston, and one in Bangor. In Portland, because we have a lot of organizations, I'll have John Ochira and Katie Howard also with me. And we're hoping that that'll be really hands-on to answer specific questions, help get through the proposal, etc. Because we really want to have, you know, applications that present your organization as best as possible for the advisors to read. So we'll be available there in person to help with that process. In Lewiston, John Ochira will be with me, and in Bangor, it'll just be me. Some tips for writing the grant proposal is to focus on the criteria and priorities, because that's what the advisors have chosen for this fund. And that's what they'll use to decide who gets funded. So use that language that's presented on the website, because that's what the advisors are going to be looking for and thinking about. Another tip is to have another person read the application. Because often, you know, I'll write something and it makes sense to me, but then someone else will read it and it will make no sense to them. So it's often really helpful to have another person read the application. Here, I'll note that we have written this application in hopes that anybody can fill it out. You know, we hope that the questions are clear and sort of obvious, and we have guidance for what each question means. So we really want the people doing the work to fill out the application. And the reason is advisors can really tell if someone filling out the application isn't the person doing the work. So if you're going to hire a grant writer to fill out the application, one way you can do that is to have them interview you and read the questions, and then they record your answers, because it's really obvious to advisors when the person filling out the application isn't affiliated or doing the work of the organization. And then the last hint is don't wait till the last moment to submit. Again, because of things like yesterday, power outages, and today our office doesn't have internet. So you just never know what's going to happen. So, you know, try to get it done like at least a day ahead of time, just in case. Okay, here's that other grant program I told you all about. Community Building Grant Program. It's the same due date as the BIPOC Fund, February 15th. It has its own set of criteria and priorities. This grant program is by geographic area. So each county in Maine has its own fund and group of advisors. So like York County has a group of 10 advisors that will be reading the proposals. So I would encourage you to take a look at this page as well on our website. The webinar for this has already happened, but so the recorded webinar will be on the website there. And it's a pretty big grant program. Oop, there we go. All right, that's all I have.